You know that voice in your head that never stops talking? The one that comments on everything that's going on or pulls a random memory from the past and it reacts to everything. One moment it's anxious, the next it's excited or frustrated or insecure. For example, let's say you wake up on a peaceful Tuesday morning, but your mind immediately starts coming up with thoughts. Did I say something weird yesterday? I should probably check my phone. Why didn't they respond to my message yet? I don't feel like working today. Maybe I should just scroll for a bit. Before you even get out of bed, your mind has already pulled you in 5 different directions. But here's the truth. If you let your mind control your life, you become a reactive slave to that endless chatter, most of which isn't really you. Imagine if you actually acted on every single thought your mind threw at you. You walk into work and the coworker next to you keeps tapping their foot. Your mind goes, "That's so annoying. Tell them to stop." So you turn and say, "Can you stop tapping your foot? It's driving me insane." Yikes. Then you're sitting in a boring meeting. Your mind says, "This is pointless. Just go on your phone and check your notifications." So you pull out your phone and start texting people. Your coworkers are now staring at you like, "What are you doing?" Then later, your manager asks you to take on another task. And your mind goes, "I'm already overworked. I deserve a raise." So you tell your manager exactly that. By the end of that day, you would have lost a friend, annoyed your coworkers, and probably have gotten yourself fired, all because you treated every thought in your head like it deserved to be acted on. Now, of course, in real life, most of us don't literally act on every single thought that pops up into our heads, but we do act on them more than we realize. We check our phone again, even though we literally just checked it. We tell ourselves we'll start the task in 5 minutes, and suddenly 30 minutes have passed. Or we replay something someone said over and over in our head until it ruins the rest of our day. Those smaller decisions might seem harmless, but they are still moments where our thoughts quietly take control of our behavior. And if those moments happen often enough, they start shaping the direction of our lives. Your mind produces thousands of thoughts every day, but not all of them deserve your attention, and definitely not all of them deserve your action. That is where mental discipline comes in. Mental discipline is the difference between reacting to every thought and choosing which ones actually deserve your energy. The people that become great at anything, leaders, athletes, creators, they are not free from negative thoughts. They experience the same doubts, the same distractions, insecurities, but the difference is that they don't let those thoughts ruin their lives. So the real question becomes, how do we train our mind so it works for us, instead of constantly working against us? So in this episode, we're going to explore how mental discipline helps us in 2 major areas of life. First, how it helps us take the right actions, showing up for the things we've committed to even when we don't feel like it. And second, how it helps us regulate our emotions so we don't get pulled into every mental spiral our mind creates. And toward the end, I'll share a few simple practices you can start using in your daily life to strengthen mental discipline and live more in alignment with your values. Let's get into it. The first place we see mental discipline is in the things we do every day physically, like it's what gets you to the gym when you don't feel like going. It's what helps you finish your work when you're tired, and it is what keeps you showing up when life feels heavy. Motivation is unreliable because some days you feel inspired, but some days you don't. But mental discipline is what carries you through the days when motivation disappears. For example, you might wake up and think, I'm tired today. I'll skip my morning walk. Someone without discipline would stop there. But someone with discipline would say, yeah, I'm tired, but I'll commit to this. I'll still go, even if it's just a shorter walk. So it's not ignoring how you feel, but it is about choosing actions based on your values, not just your current mood. But there is another side of mental discipline that people talk about less, and that is how we handle our thoughts and emotions. So, our minds, as I mentioned earlier, are constantly generating thoughts, and some of them are helpful, like understanding people's social cues. But some of them pull us into spirals, like replaying a conversation that happened months or years ago, or overanalyzing situations. In those, you start to question yourself and you go deeper and deeper into a mental loop that doesn't necessarily have answers or is super productive for you. But mental discipline allows you to pause and say, is this actually helping me? I actually experienced this recently. I started noticing myself mentally spiraling around a breakup, and I found myself consuming content related to it, like videos, advice, analysis, trying to understand my personal situation and maybe trying to find answers. But the more content I consumed, the worse I felt about myself. And even though I felt like I was quote unquote learning, it actually wasn't empowering me. And I knew this because I wasn't feeling better. I was actually feeling like more confused and more in the dark about myself. And I realized I wasn't actually trying to move forward. Rather, I was feeding the spiral that my mind was creating. And I eventually caught myself and thought, what am I actually doing right now? And that's where my mental discipline came in. So instead of continuing down that spiral, I paused and asked myself, what would actually bring me back to my center? And the answer wasn't more breakup content. The answer was actually shifting my attention toward something more constructive. So instead of staying in that loop, I actually sat down and started storyboarding this podcast episode. Something that challenges my mind, helps me learn, and creates value. And in that moment, mental discipline wasn't about forcing my productivity, but about choosing where my attention should go. So I think of mental discipline like a muscle. It takes consistent effort to exercise it every day for you to get better and better at sharpening it. And the best way to do this is through small daily practices to implement in your daily life. So here are 3 ways to start building that discipline. So the first is a method that seems to be the cure for all physical and mental issues, but truly it is super helpful for sharpening mental discipline, and that is meditation. So in layman's terms, meditation trains the ability to notice a thought without automatically following it, meaning you're not reacting to it, you're not entertaining it, you are just letting it exist like a cloud in the sky and letting it pass. Practices like samadhi meditation, which I personally do, focus on a single pointed concentration. So it's placing your attention on one thought or object. And every time your mind wanders, which it inevitably will, you gently bring your attention back to that center. This thought or object can be you close your eyes and you just picture a peaceful mountainscape or a tree, or if you'd like, you can just put an object in front of you, like a plant, and when your mind wanders, acknowledge that those thoughts exist, let them pass, don't fight them, and then bring your attention back to either the object you're looking at, or if you're closing your eyes, that thought in your head. So practicing this even 5 minutes a day can begin strengthening your ability to guide your attention back to what you value, who you truly are, what you really believe in, what really gives you energy. The second practice that will strengthen your mental discipline is to keep small promises to yourself. Mental discipline grows every time you follow through on something you said you would do. And in particular, this will help a lot with the physical discipline. So this could be simple things like taking the daily walk or meeting the minimal step goal you promised you'd meet, or cooking one fresh meal a day, volunteering. These small commitments might seem minor, but they train your brain to trust itself. And self-trust is a huge part of discipline, because when you go through something really hard inevitably, or you feel unmotivated one day, if you have constantly followed through on the promises you've made to yourself, you're almost like your number one trusted person, which is the best thing. And then the final tip I have is to create space for your emotions. So mental discipline doesn't mean suppressing how you feel. Instead, it means giving emotions a healthy place to exist without letting them control your behavior. So you might cry about something, or vent into a voice memo, or talk through it with a trusted family member or therapist or friend. But outside of that intentional space, you return to your routines and your responsibilities. And this balances the emotional regulation and physical discipline that is necessary for a healthy, happy life, because you are allowing your emotions to exist without letting them run your life. So in conclusion, your mind will always generate thoughts. Some will be helpful, some will be distracting, and some will be painful. But mental discipline is not about eliminating those thoughts. It's about learning which ones deserve your attention and which ones you simply let pass. It helps you show up when your motivation disappears, and it helps you return to your center when your mind starts pulling you into spirals. Because at the end of the day, the quality of your life is determined not by every thought you have, but by which thoughts you choose to follow. And the wise quote that I'm going to end this episode with is, "Make effort to uplift yourself. Do not degrade yourself. For one's own self is one's friend, and one's own self is one's enemy." Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I hope you had a great start to your spring season, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.